Well, good morning, everyone. Hope you're doing well today, and hope you've had a nice rest and you're now worshiping uh, through our Sunday school class. The lesson today is entitled Seven Questions That Guides My Life. Now, what in the world am I going to talk about? Well, let me tell you a little bit. The thing I wanted to do, I was contemplating this for quite a while, actually, and I was thinking about all the things that shaped my life and then shaped my Christian life as well. And I started thinking and really kind of a deep analysis of myself of saying exactly what motivates me. What are the things that really help me, guide me when I feel a little bit like I'm not sure where to go and what to do? And what have I used in the past? And so I started really looking at myself more in depth. And I came across seven questions that I think in my search for the answers for those questions that have really helped me in my life. And now I'm just going to share that. It's like a testimony if I can approach it that direction. But maybe something from this, or maybe some of those questions might be relevant for you too. And that's what I wanted to share. And I want to talk about though that how questions like these seven questions, but questions themselves are so powerful. And to ask questions and to seek answers is an unbelievable experience that opens so many doors. And the answers that come back can sometimes confuse us. It can sometimes frustrate us. It can boggle our minds. It can also boggle our imaginations and bring us awe in our life, as well as allow us to kind of see the horizon and even beyond. Questions opens up doors. Questions are powerful in our lives, and we need to be asking more questions in our life and seeking answers, even if we're not sure when the answer will come and how it will come, but to have that attitude of seeking, of questioning things. We were born and we were developed from very early on in childhood with an endless sea of questions that we're always asking all the time. Remember as kids, the kind of questions we asked? Well, I went and found some actual questions that kids ask that were in there, like 3 to 5 year olds that ask questions, and I think they're hilarious, or maybe some little older ones too. But anyway, let me recite some of these because they're hilarious, and on top of that, they're very insightful, just to show you the kind of a quest that we all are in, even at the younger age. For example, Mom, this is from a 5 year old boy, by the way. Mom, my belly hurts. Am I pregnant? In the olden days, was everything black and white? I guess that's especially for today's generations, is it not? Why do I have two eyes if I only see one thing? Ooh, very philosophical. If plants need rain and sun to grow, and rainbows are made of light and water, are rainbows plant food? Ooh, I like that. Good rationale. How did people make the first tools if they didn't have any tools? Chicken and the egg, right? Why is the moon called the moon? Oh boy, that's a stumper right there for a parent to have to look up. How do I know that I'm real and not just a dream of someone else? Obviously, looking at a lot of sci-fi movies, no doubt. And when this one boy was looking at a baby, the boy said, "Do they know they're alive yet?" Ooh, do the babies know they're alive yet? A boy says, "Dad, are there infinite words?" "Oh, no, son," said the dad, "but there are infinite numbers." "Well, if there's a word," he says, "for every number, then there must be infinite words." Ooh, some more logic, right? That's great. What did it feel like on your last day of being a child? Answer that one, would you? That is a great question. I'll do one more and that's it. Why do we have to be born young and grow old? Why can't we be born old and get young? Good question. Good question. Where do our questions and search for answers come from? Well, let me put it in a spiritual context. Every day, we're becoming either like Jesus or less like him. Think about that. Spiritual formation is the name for what that process that I'm talking about, by which Christians in union with Christ and guided by the Holy Spirit become conformed both internally and externally to the very character of Christ for the purpose of communing with God to bring us to God's presence. Now, to illustrate how Israel had failed to measure up in this area, in the Old Testament that is, God gave Moses a vision. And here it comes from Amos chapter 7. This is what he showed me. The Lord was standing by a wall that had been built true to plumb, with a plumb line in his hand. And the Lord asked me, "What do you see, Amos?" "A plumb line," I replied. Then the Lord said, "Look, I'm setting a plumb line among my people Israel. I will spare them no longer." Straighten up was another way of putting it right there. Since at least the time of ancient Egypt, plumb lines have been used to ensure the construction and perfectly plumb or vertical of a building. A plumb line consists of a small, heavy object attached to a string or rope and let down because gravity would then hold it in a straight line. And when held top from a construction, such as a building, it provides a way to see if the construction is straight or not. So God's law was the plumb line, the perfect standard that the people were measured against. And since the time of Amos, though, we've been given another plumb line, Jesus Christ. So Christ is our standard of comparison for holiness, the objective of our sanctification, becoming like God, like Christ in our life. So in order to get that plumb line going, in order to be able to really see what is right, self-examination is essential to that process of sanctification and to see if we're on the right track and spiritual growth. It shows us how we measure up to Jesus. So Christian self-examination is not a navel-gazing moment necessarily. We're not to be so self-absorbed and looking inward to see how we measure up against other people and how we are satisfied with ourselves. Instead, we are to look inward to see how we measure up against the plumb line of Jesus. So let me share how I've applied this self-examination to my own life. The greatest discovery of life I have found out comes not from finding the right answers, but is asking the right questions. And throughout my years, I've been adding to a list of questions that have changed the way I work, I live, and I grow, and I even love, spiritually as well as physically. So I want to share these 7 great questions from me that have had a dramatic impact on my life. A great author said one time, "You can tell whether a man is clever by his answers. You can tell whether a man is wise by his questions." So I hope that my questions are wise. And I feel that one of the greatest held beliefs is that the greatest discovery of life comes not from finding the right answers, but finding and asking the right questions. So the right question at the right time can change a life. And how can it change a life? Well, you can see the world in a whole different way if you just ask the right question. You can evaluate your own challenges and dilemmas from a new angle by asking the right question to say, "I haven't thought about that from that angle before." You can uncover blind spots and incorrect assumptions that I thought were true, but now if I ask the question, they don't sound so true. I need to re-ask that again. Or expose your own self-limiting beliefs that possibly to question yourself, to question, why am I doing this? And why do I believe that? Opens up some unique aspects. And then lastly, and most importantly, it allows God to be bigger in our lives to ask the questions. So let me get to the 7 questions. I've kept talking about it, so let's do it, okay? So here are the 7 questions that I have dramatic impact in my life. Let's go to number 1. Who am I? And you think, well, that's kind of basic. But no, it's not. That's a hard question. Who am I? And that's a question I have asked throughout my years. Why have I asked it throughout my years? Because I am not the same person when I was a teenager. I'm not the same person when I was in elementary school. I'm not the same person 20 years ago. I'm a different person all the time. I'm in transition. I'm in a creational process. So my identity is constantly changing. Now, there's a core belief in that I am who I am that God made. But there's a metamorphosis going on all the time. So I need to be asking that question of myself at periodical times, saying, now, who am I? And remind myself of the basic things that I believe in, the assumptions I'm making, if they're true. And thirdly, what things have changed in my life that have made me a different person. We will never arrive. As one person said, when we stop growing, we start dying. We are looking for our relationship to the world, those in it, and who God has formed in us. So each time we seriously ask the question, we seek answers, we open another page of a book discovering the next adventure of our journey. We discover a new view of our destiny. We discover a clearer pathway and a view of why of yesterday. And then we're open to the eternal, of the answers coming from God. This is who you are. Number 2 question. Does God approve of me? Well, of course he does. I'm his child. I believe in him. And he calls me by name. Otherwise, why'd even exist? But I ask this question of myself, of my actions, my attitudes, and faith in him. Does God approve of me? If he sees all that I do, that I have done, that I will ever do, then is that pleasing in his sight? Yes, he approves of me as his child, but he does not approve of my reflection in the world. I don't know. I once told my sons when they asked me at bedtime when they were just small boys if I would ever stop loving them. But then they started challenging me. What if I did this? And what if I said that? Or what if I done whatever it may be? Would I ever stop loving them? And I told them and affirmed them that my love would never stop. But I would be deeply disappointed and hurt by their actions. I approve of them, but not approval of some of their actions and thoughts. So it is with our Father. Number 3, if I repeated this day, today, for 100 days, would my life be better or worse? Think about that. Is today of such quality and achievement and growth that my life would be better if I repeated it 100 times, or vice versa? You live your life zoomed way, way in. If you think about zoom, in the sense about how we do on our computers, we zoom in like a telescope or binoculars. It makes it difficult to assess the quality of your daily actions and whether you're on the right course because you're so into the now of where it may be. On a regular basis, zoom out by asking yourself this question or these questions. How would your actions from a typical day compound in your life? If I did everything the next day and then the next day, what would happen in succession that would totally impact my life? Number 2, would they be driving you forward in the direction of your goals, your vision, your destiny, of where you're meant to be? Would they be steering you off course, detrimental to your health and to your relevancy and to your importance in life? Remember the 1 in 60 rule? Some of you may not. Let me explain it then. The 1 in 60 rule is this. A 1-degree error in heading means for a plane will miss its destination by 1 mile for every 60 miles flown, 1 to 60. So if you go wrong for the first mile, every 60 miles it'll be compounded. Small errors in headings are amplified by distance and time. Now, do the course correct early and often, and you don't have to worry about it. There are often 2 sets of priorities in life. The priorities, the words you say you have, and then the priorities your actions show that you have. We say, this is my priority, but how are you living it out? Will your actions reveal alignment with your words or dislocation? 1 in 60 rule. What are the areas and priorities where you seem to be cutting corners? What do your actions say about your priorities? What changes do you need to make in your life is the question. And that's the question that goes back to my point. Perspective is everything. You need to detach yourself from a situation and see it through someone else's eyes. Remember, when in doubt, zoom out and look at the big picture. Let's go to number 4. What are the boat anchors in my life? Now, as you push for growth in your life, there will be people, there will be actions, events, behaviors, and things that stand ready to stop your progress, slow it down. I'll call these inhibitors boat anchors. You could visualize your car maybe. There's another imagery here with your parking brake on and you're trying to drive. But in the imagery of a boat, you're running the engines at full steam ahead, but these boat anchors are stuck on the bottom ocean floor, dragging along, creating a huge drag that holds you back from the optimal performance and the course that you're trying to take. Here's some examples of everyday boat anchors. People who possibly ignore you or laugh at you because of your age, your gender, or other judgmental attitudes, and tell you things like, oh, be more realistic. You're too old. You're just a woman. You're too fat. You're too skinny, whatever it may be. You don't know how to talk to young people. They always put you down for that. That's a boat anchor. Or possibly small actions or behaviors you adopt that are sabotaging your growth. Maybe you've got habits going in your life that you've allowed to be there that's dragging you back or stopping you from progressing very fast anyway. Or possibly a third one would be like self-limiting beliefs that prevent you from doing the things that you're capable of, to truly believe that you can achieve. You know, it's easy to ignore boat anchors if you're still making forward progress. You think, okay, that's just the way it is. But the drag they create is meaningful and prohibits you from operating at your full potential. So what are the boat anchors silently holding you back? I've looked at mine, and I keep on looking at them because I keep on putting boat anchors in the water all the time. How can you and I slowly, methodically cut those lines and unleash the power that's within us and say, no, I can do it. I can try with God's help. Number 5 question I ask myself. What lie have I repeated to myself so many times that it feels like it's the truth? There's a great quote, one of my favorite quotes by Lao Tzu says this: watch your thoughts, they become your words. Watch your words, they become your actions. Watch your actions, they become your habits. Watch your habits, they become your character. And watch your character, it becomes your destiny. There is a concept in science called cognitive science, the illusory truth effect. Let me describe that to you. This is a tendency to believe false information after consistent, repeated exposures to it. Look at today. What we hear on the news, what we hear our neighbors say, the gossip possibly around us. And it's said so often from different people, we think, well, that's got to be truth behind it. Or possibly the media knows this, and they keep persistently telling us, this is the greatest product, this is it, or this person's bad because of this, this, and this. And pretty soon we think that's truth because it's so relentless telling us this information. In other words, if you're told a lie over and over again, it takes your mind as a truth. It's a tendency. It's an illusion. It's particularly destructive when a lie is a lie you tell yourself. So when you tell yourself a lie, well, I just can't do that, and you say it over and over again, then you won't be able to do it. Because we have an internal dialogue that's running 24/7 all the time. We're talking to ourselves all the time. And the quality of that internal dialogue has a very real, intangible impact in your interpretation and interaction with the external world. For example, if you tell yourself over and over again that you aren't capable of something, then you'll believe it to be true and you won't even try. Why bother? I'm not strong enough. I'm not pretty enough. I don't have enough hair. I don't whatever. And you tell it long enough, you'll believe it. If you tell yourself over and over again that you aren't worthy of something, that's just way too much for me, boom, boom. You believe it to be true, so you won't reach for it to try to gain it. If you tell yourself over and over again that you can go no further, you will believe it to be true. I've just reached, I'm too old, I'm just this, I'm just that, I've achieved this, where it may be, I don't not physically be able to do anything. And so you just start limiting your life down, down, down because you tell yourself that's it and you won't grow anymore. So observe that internal dialogue that you're having. What lie have you been repeating to yourself? I have been looking into my life intensely in that area. What am I telling myself over and over again? Or I'm believing others' lies about me. Fight back. Ask God to reveal truths about yourself. Look at yourself through his eyes of potential. As God reveals how he sees you, it's unbelievable what he thinks possible in our lives. Number 6, if I knew that I would die in 1 year, what would I do today? Now, you've undoubtedly seen the shorter version of this question. What would you do if today were your last day? Or possibly, what would you do if you knew you'd die in a week? These are short versions. But frankly, I find that those questions minimally impact, as the answer usually evolves around a dramatic change. If I answer that question, if I knew I'd die tomorrow, I may not be writing this lesson right now, even talking to you about it, because I'd want to do other things. If I died in a week, I'd probably be spending every single moment with my wife, my son, my family, whatever it may be, and especially getting my Christian life in order. Because if I knew that I had that very limited short time, I'd intensify it. But a whole year, what would you do? That's not particularly insightful when you do it in a small way. But the horizon, 1 year, that's a big deal. 1 year is long enough that you still have a lot of time left, but short enough that it's very quantifiable. So what changes would you make if you knew that you wouldn't be around in 2026? What big thing would you finally pursue? What fears would melt away in your life? What would you remove from your life that you know that you will do it now, that's for sure. And what would you spend more time with? Those are bigger, dramatic, and you can do something about that in a year's time. So number 6 was, if I knew I'd die in 1 year, what would I do today? Interesting. That really drove me in my quest. So let me get to the last one so we finish this lesson out. I'm sure you're getting tired of the questions. How will I be remembered? Well, this pops in my head more often as I get older. I guess it's why I mentioned it last in the list. I could say I really don't care what others think of me, but I do. Our self-image is important. It has such a powerful guiding principle to our actions. They could be selfish and or sacrificial. I draw caution in my life to think too deeply so that I try pleasing everyone and end up like a pinball bouncing around, going nowhere because I'm trying to please too many. I suppose the real question is, who will I be remembered as a legacy of who I was and my actions that came out of it? I'll be remembered for what I did. I'll remember about what I said, and I backed it up with what I did. And that's what's important. There's a woman by the name of Christy Cole, a great story here, who wrote about a personal experience that had a profound impact in her view of how to be remembered. And I want to read her statement to you. I had COVID. It legit took me out for 3 weeks. I thought I was going to die. But in some ways, it gave me a new lease in life. And this idea of, I don't always know if I have tomorrow. So therefore, she said, I'm very cognizant of what I am doing today and the legacy I'm leaving behind, and trying to leave people better than I found them and leave glitter in my wake. I like that poetical ending. I like that. I too want to leave memories of words that strengthen, actions that change for the better, and values of deeper faith and hope. That's what I want to be remembered for. But how do I get that? I get there by being purposeful about it, by being focused on it, of saying, I'm not there to be famous, wherever it may be, but I want to have a life of quality. So, those are my 7 questions. Consider these questions deeply, as I have in my life. And my guess is that they will bring a few changes, possibly on the surface anyway, that are worth making in your life. Focus on questions, not the answers. I close with a little parable that I want to share with you that kind of wraps it all together. Once upon a time, in a vast grassy plain, there lived a lion cub. But this lion cub was different. It had grown up among a herd of sheep, blending in seamlessly with its woolly companions. It bleated like a sheep, grazed on grass, and even thought it was one of them. The other sheep, however, didn't see it that way. They ridiculed the little lion cub for its peculiar behavior. Why can't you bleat properly like us? They would say. You're a disgrace to the sheep community. Well, the lion cub felt lost and incomplete. It sensed that something was missing, but it couldn't quite put a paw on it. It longed for a sense of purpose and identity beyond its woolly disguise. One day, an older lion from a distant jungle spotted the herd of sheep. Curiously, he decided to investigate, and as he approached, he noticed that the young lion running alongside the sheep. The older lion's instincts kicked in, and he pounced on the cub. What are you running with the sheep? Why are you doing this? You're not one of them. Terrified, the young lion stammered, well, please don't eat me. I'm just a young sheep. The older lion, wise and patient, dragged the cub to a nearby river, urged it to look at the reflection, and there in the shimmering water, the lion cub saw its true self, a majestic lion with a golden mane and fierce eyes. Trembling, the cub whispered, but I thought I was a sheep. The older lion chuckled, you were lost in their world, my friend. You forgot your true nature. You are not a sheep, but a mighty lion. The realization hit the young lion like a bolt of lightning. It's been living a lie, denying its innate strength and purpose. From the moment on, it embraced its true identity, standing tall and proud. And so, the lion left the sheep behind, returned to the jungle where it belonged. It roared with newfound confidence, echoing through the trees. No longer lost, it understood that self-examination was the key to unlocking its potential. Isn't that a great story? So remember, like the lion, we must sometime look beyond our familiar roles and questions who truly we are. Self-examination tends to self-discovery, empowering us to live authentically and embrace our unique creational purpose that God has for us. Focus on the questions. Live the questions. And the answers you seek will follow in time, sometimes through a whole lifetime. Then you'll become like Jesus. Lord bless you today.